Welcome to Smart, Fabulous, and Single. I'm your host, Trisha Ann. Today, I'm going into the chat room where I usually invite ladies to share their thoughts, personal experiences, and lessons learned in relation to this week's topic. The conversations are really eye-opening, and we usually uncover nuggets to help us live this single life like a boss. So, stick around for today's episode, and if you have any questions, email me at pod@sfswoman.com. Also, if you and or your girls want to be guests in the chat room, visit the Smart, Fabulous, and Single podcast page at www.sfswoman.com. Welcome again to your host, Trisha Ann, and I so appreciate you tuning into today's episode in the chat room. I have with me today Debbie Ann and Marc-Anne, and we're gonna be chatting away. We're gonna be talking about this topic of singleness, and we're trying to understand specifically if when we're single we get too me focused. If when we're single we center on ourselves, and it really hampers other relationships in our lives. So thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Marc-Anne. I really appreciate you taking the time. The question today is, does being single make you too me focused? What do you guys think? What's your experience?
Well, for me, I don't think being single, good afternoon, sorry, makes you too me focused. I think being single is a time when you should be focused on yourself. Because when you're married or you have children, your attention will be divided by, having to attend to other persons. So being single is a time when you actually need to focus on yourself, develop yourself, getting to know the real you. So I really think that that's a time for you to be focused on yourself. And honestly, for me, persons normally focus on finding the right person when they are single and not focusing on themselves, to me. So it's all about everywhere you go, you try to scope out. I wonder if my partner is here. I wonder if somebody is here that's going to seek after me, so everywhere you're going, you try to fix up yourself a certain way so that you can attract somebody. So for me, being single is not a time that you're too me focused. It is a time for you to focus on yourself.
So basically what you're saying is really get yourself ready for the world, pretty much is what you're saying. Is that what you're trying to say, Debbie?
Not really just getting yourself ready for the world, but getting yourself ready for you. Focus on you, just being you, developing you. Whether or not a man come or he doesn't come. You understand? Just developing you. Understand? And not focusing on, okay, I want to be this type of person for that type of guy.
Okay, great. Marc-Anne, what about you? What do you think? I mean, let me tell you, let me just throw it out there. I've asked this question because I've heard some persons say, oh, single women are too this and too that, and they focus too much on themselves, and then when the time comes, they don't know how to compromise and so on. I mean, Marc-Anne, what do you think? What's your perspective?
Well, I think that sometimes we can get too me focused, as you said, where we get into a relationship and we don't know what to do because everything was centered around ourselves. While it is a time to find out about yourself, find your likes, your dislikes, your tastes, your preferences. It's also a time to develop yourself in terms of how do I compromise in this situation, or how would I do this in a situation, because yes, we are single, but most of us desire to get married. And in a marriage relationship, you can't think only about yourself. So while we are to focus on ourselves, I think we should also keep in the back of our minds sometimes that it's not only about us.
I hear what you're saying. Debbie, you spoke about, developing yourself for you. When you say developing yourself for you, what exactly do you mean? Like, what are some of the specific things that, you would recommend?
Well, actually, when I say developing yourself for you, meaning in terms of educational pursuits, going back to school, learning a skill, Also learning, developing a relationship with God, getting closer to God, and learning about you. Because a lot of times, as I said, we spend a lot of times focusing on getting to know the other person, or getting to know what it means to be in a relationship and getting ready for a relationship, instead of saying, all right, then, becoming that woman after God's own heart, becoming a woman, just like being complete of yourself. People always saying that you're half and then there's the other half that's going to complete you. I'm talking about you being whole by yourself and knowing that, listen, I am me, and I know who I am. So that when you're in a relationship, your identity doesn't get wrapped up into being Mrs. or being somebody else's wife. You're you. You know who you are and what you stand for.
The interesting thing is, and I know that you, Debbie, you're married, right? The interesting thing to me is, I've heard other people say, but even though you should be learning about yourself, there has to be a balance between learning about yourself and learning how to be in a relationship. Is that something you subscribe to? What you think about that idea?
Yeah, I think I agree that there should be a balance. I agree that there should be a balance. So yes, there should be a balance, definitely. No, what I'm saying, at the same time, this is what I want to caution person. Don't spend all of your single life trying to become a wife, or trying to be in like you're a lady in waiting. I mean, enjoy your singleness, as a gift from God. Do things for yourself. Go out, have fun, go to events, meet other people, not just because you want to be in a relationship with them. Not every man that you meet is a potential partner. Understand? Just have good friendships, healthy friendships, laugh, have fun, and enjoy yourself.
I really appreciate that. I mean, you're pretty much saying that although I'm single and there's some amount of time that I must spend being that person that can enter into a relationship and later marriage, I have to enjoy that singleness. Ladies, I hope you're hearing that, because I think that's a really valid point from Debbie. Marc-Anne, you mentioned that you think sometimes we do get me focused, and then it means that we're not necessarily as ready as we can be to transition into a relationship. From your own experiences or from other women, like, give me some examples. Like, how are we focused sometimes?
Well, for example, I like chocolate ice cream. Okay. If I'm going to treat someone to ice cream because I like chocolate ice cream, I'm going to buy them chocolate ice cream because all I know is what do I like. So when I give it to them now, they might not receive it as much because maybe their favorite ice cream is grape nut. And so that might cause some issues where if getting a gift is all about what would I want to buy for myself, then I mean, it would cause some problems. If I'm going to buy a gift for someone, if all I think about is what I would want for myself, clearly it won't work for a male partner all the time.
Right, true, very true. Debbie, you hear what Marc-Anne is saying? I mean, does that sound true to you? Like, do you think we do that sometimes, and maybe even in other situations, not just gift buying?
Yes, sometimes I do that. When I am, yes, like even using the same example as ice cream. I love rum and raisin ice cream. So naturally, if I'm going to buy ice cream, I'm going to buy rum and raisin. And if you want grape nut, I'm going to buy grape nut. Who eats grape nut? You understand? So we do that for real.
I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me that, boy, the reality is when you're single, you're so focused on you sometimes that you don't realize when you're making everything, no matter how small it is, about you. Is that something that we really do? 'Cause that is a serious thing, That's something serious, because when it's time for a relationship, we're not gonna get the relationship right. Is that something, ladies, that we really do?
Well, not for me, but I know that there's some persons who will make everything about them. Like if you're gonna disagree, then it's not just disagreeing with the suggestion, you're disagreeing with them and you don't like something about them. But I mean, overall, as we've been saying, balance is necessary. Know yourself, but also know how to communicate with someone and make sacrifices, make compromises. It's all about balance, I think.
All about balance. So that it's not just about you, and certainly just not about the other person, but
Right.
about creating harmony. Right, right, right. I like that.
I was reading something this morning about person saying that he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And sometimes as ladies, you may think I am it, I am the person that I like a trophy to be achieved. And you're so lucky to have me. So yes, sometimes we may make, um, everything about us, what I like and what I want, and not focus on the other person.
Yeah, yeah. All right, I'm gonna switch the tables now. How, if any at all, do men behave when they're too me focused? What are they doing to make, you know, you feel like, no man, you're not ready for this relationship thing because you're focusing too much on yourself?
Like men know, they like to, I'm not really picking on you men, but in terms of especially housework, they tend to like to be treated like a king, right? So I think in terms of that, men may feel that, okay, it's all about them being treated like the king of the house because they are the head of the household. Like let me speak from the married perspective. Like a man would come home and him just sit down in the chair, kick off him shoes, want him dinner, and you two, how was your day, and be all over him and everything. Nobody ask you how your day was, Nobody cares about, you know, what you're doing, especially if you're a stay-at-home person, they probably think, oh, you're here watching Lifetime. You're not doing anything much, so they in that way they'll make the focus on themselves.
Wow. A man who comes home and he's not participating. And on top of that, thinks that the woman has not been doing anything all day if she stay at home. Wow. Yeah. Any other way that you think men are too me focused?
Single or married or
Any either one.
To me folk, I think generally men, um they, because they are looked upon as being leaders and being like the head in most situation. It's, for me generally it's like they're always wanting the attention, and they want like everything to be right, provided for them, like you're to minister to them, for want of a better word.
Minister to them, Debbie, what that means.
Really like to be there for their every need. You understand?
Oh, okay.
For their every need.
Yeah.
More, a lot of men, even if they are single, um, especially if they live with their mom and stuff like that, their mother will do everything for them. And so it's like it's all about, so when they get into the marriage, it's the same thing. So it's they're not thinking, okay, like what can I take home for my wife today? How is my wife feeling? Stuff like that. It doesn't have to be a special occasion. Understand? So it's all about, okay, what is my wife doing for me? Or what is the lady doing for me?
Wow. And it's interesting to me that you would say that because their mothers would have taken care of them. I guess somebody may say spoiled them or, pampered them. When it now comes time for the relationship and later the marriage, they don't know how to put in. It's always about taking out. I never really thought of it that way. That's very interesting, though, Debbie. Thanks for that. Marc-Anne, what about you, though? I mean, share the similar views or anything different that you want to add to that?
Well, I'm not married, so I'm not really sure how men would behave in the home, but in just relationships, they would, as Debbie says, they're the head, are going to church here. Man is the head, or men are the leaders. And so what happens is they think that everything they think or say is correct. They're not open to suggestions, or they're not willing to um, talk about their feelings as much as we want. It's only when they want to that they will allow it. But any other time, it's a no. Everything else, it's a no until they want to do it. So,
And is that something that you come across often though? Like, is that really something that men do? Is that really a characteristic of who being a man is? Like he's all about him. It must be his way or no other way. And I'm just asking.
a lot. Because a lot of times they hear women must submit. Women must submit. And so it just goes to show that a lot of these men think that submission is not just about respect, but about listening when I talk and doing it how I say when I say it.
That's very interesting. Here is the challenge that I see though. I mean, and maybe you guys can tell me what you think. Maybe you ladies can tell me what you think, right? We have a situation where women are trying to develop and be their best selves while they're single and balance that with, or they ought to balance that with, um, preparing for marriage, right? But sometimes, as Marc-Anne say, as women, we focus on ourselves, you know? And then you have men who focus on themselves, quite a bit of them, because maybe, as Debbie said, they are spoon fed by mommy, or they, like Marc-Anne said, they have certain expectations because they're supposed to be the head of the relationship. Then, if that is the case, and we're rubbing each other where the woman and the man can be too me focused, how do we have a good relationship at all? What is it that women are supposed to be doing differently? And then what should men do differently? Let's start with what should women do differently. If you are to advise a woman, what would you tell a woman that she should do differently, Debbie or Marc-Anne?
All right. Well, for me, I like to read. I like to read books about relationships, books about finding yourself. I like to look up personality traits, stuff like that. So while I look up my personality traits, I would look up the other ones to see, okay, this person is like that and this person is like that. So for example, I am an INFP, and so I'm really sentimental and cry and stuff like that. But for a guy now, he might be an ENTP. So he might not be in tune with his feelings as much, but when he does give them, it's like over the top, and it might seem a bit too much, and you might not want to really accept it because it's a bit too much, but that's just how they are. They keep it in, so when they let it out, they let it all out. So knowing things like that, it makes you more receptive to those compliments per se. And
So basically, we have to prepare. I've heard people say that before. You have to prepare. You have to start to read the books and learn more about how a man is, and learn more about even how you are, and see how you can bridge that gap.
yeah, you have to expand your knowledge base from just yourself. You have to know what people are like in certain situations. Like I saw this meme that said, if you really want to see how someone behaves angrily, give them Internet Explorer to use instead of Google Chrome, because that's really slow. So you get to see that person frustrated. You get to read body languages and understand nonverbal cues. You have to know about people and get a better understanding of who you are as well as who others are and how they behave.
Who you are as well as how others are, and they what?
who you are and how others behave.
Okay, great, great, great. Debbie, what about you? I mean, what would you, given this challenge where women may be too me focused sometimes, men seem to be a whole lot of me focused. What would you say to either one, man or woman, about how to, get around that?
I want to agree with Marc-Anne in terms of reading. I'm an avid reader myself. Um, a lot of men don't like to read. They prefer to maybe watch a show. You understand? But if it is watching a YouTube video and you can learn from it, then fine. But I agree with expanding your knowledge of the opposite sex, getting to know what that person is all about. And I want to go back to my earlier point in terms of not seeing every male as a potential partner. I think when you take the focus of not looking through those lenses, then you will start to see persons for who they are, getting to know the real person. Because if you're just looking at the person as, is this person my husband? When I'm talking to you, when you're listening to somebody, if you're just listening for one thing, so your views or your perceptions will be skewed because you're only focusing on one thing, right? So if you are looking at the person just to get to know them for who they are, understand? Get to know the person for, what they like, what they don't like. So I think for either man or woman, you need to understand the opposite sex, read books about them. And also, as she said earlier, when you're observing persons, observe how they behave in different situations. And believe it or not, sometimes what persons say about somebody, especially if they know them closely, take it. Sometimes it's not bad mind. Sometimes it's true. But when you're in love, you think say, all right, then no man. It's just that's your experience. It will be different for me. And like I just cite an example, before I got married, like my husband's grandmother would say, why that him now do this around the house and do that around the house. And I'll be like, no, sir. It's just because he's here, he loves me so much, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And then when you get married and you see him not doing it, you're like, so you're not doing this, you understand? And I remember what grandma did say, she lived with him all her life, so she
Right.
knew, what he's going to do, so listen to other persons, what they say about that person as well. So and as I said, I can't overemphasize the fact that when you're looking at people, get to know the person for who they are. Not just look on the person as though, why I wonder if my person is. When you do that, it's like you're trying to meet your need. Like, because when we're doing that, we're just trying to say, I want to see if the person is right for me. You understand? And it shouldn't be about that.
I find it interesting. I'm wondering now then if any of us, whether male or female, are ready for relationships. Like what you ladies have described makes me wonder, do we really have what it takes to be in a relationship? From your own personal experiences, Debbie, from your own personal experiences, and it doesn't have to just be about your marriage, right? But like, do you think we really know how to be in relationships?
Yes and no. um, I think more no than yes, because a lot of times our view of relationships is based off the TV, fairy tale. And these people are always dressed up, look nice, them come home and they kiss each other and whatever, and they fight and they make up back and everything. And you look at those shows and you're like, oh, that's going to be my life. Understand? And not realizing that every relationship is different and you can't live your life through TV, right? So I think we are not really ready for relationships if we are looking at, experiences through television or what we read in books like, photo romance or anything like that. But when we are ready for a relationship is when we know who we are in God, and we know what God's purpose is for our life, and the person that is going to be our life partner will also complement that purpose that God has for our life. So it's not going to be more about me now, but it's going to be about when I get with this person is going to complement the purpose that God has for both of us life. So while God is working on me and he's helping me to fulfill my purpose, I'm also helping him fulfill his purpose.
Thanks for that, Debbie. I really appreciate that. The reality is God gives us marriage for a reason. God gives us marriage for a purpose, and so we have to be very careful that we don't have these preconceived notions that boxes kind of scratches what God wants to achieve with marriage out of the way, box it out of the way, scratch it out. You know what I mean? We must know why we're going into marriage. And yes, of course, emotions are a reason. Yes, of course, because we want companionship, and it is not good to be alone, but it's more than that, So I really appreciate that viewpoint. Thanks for that, Debbie. Yeah, so pretty much what I'm getting from you ladies is that there's quite a bit that we need to be considering when we think about our singleness and when we think about preparedness for marriage. So we must think about, developing ourselves and being better persons, and make sure that doesn't overshadow the reality that, okay, yes, we want to be married. That is a part of what we want to achieve, but it can't be our main and only focus. Living our lives and enjoying our singleness and being better persons should be a part of our focus. But the reality is sometimes when we are focusing on being better us, or just focusing on being single, or just living our single lives, sometimes we get too me focused. And if I trust what Marc-Anne is saying to me, men seem to be more be focused than women. And Debbie, it seems that you agree as well. So the way to get out of that is preparing ourselves for a marriage, reading more, expanding our knowledge, watching videos, ensuring that we understand what God says marriage is for, because it is for some kind of purpose. And if it is for purpose, then we have to have the same viewpoint and lens that God has where marriage is concerned. So ladies, if you really want to be the kind of woman and wife God is talking about when he says, when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing, then I think we need to ask ourselves this question. 1, are we too me focused? And 2, do we even understand the purpose for marriage? And therefore, are we preparing ourselves to be more like that? Debbie, Marc-Anne, thank you so much. This was amazing. Women are out there and they're not really thinking about certain things when it comes down to just being better persons. And then on top of that, they're not even thinking about it when it comes down to preparing for marriage. Some women don't even think that. Yeah, listen to me. I sat in a session once where a woman was like, why should I prepare for marriage? And my question to her was, but don't you prepare for motherhood? And if God says, and he does say it, that the man should be more important to you than even your child, your husband, because he likens it onto the church, then why wouldn't you prepare for marriage? Listen, we gotta start to think about this thing about marriage and relationships differently. Debbie, Marc-Anne, thanks again for joining me on Smart, Fabulous, and Single. Girls, it's your host, Trisha Ann. Tune into the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Smart, Fabulous, and Single. If you loved it, please download, subscribe, rate, and share it. Then head over to our website at www.sfswoman.com to access show notes and other fantastic bonus content and resources, and to sign up as a guest. You can also sign up to continue the conversation in our Facebook group. If you want to share topic ideas, email me at pod@sfswoman.com. Okay, so thanks again, and don't forget to join me for new episodes Mondays to Fridays. You can also connect with me on FB and IG at Smart, Fabulous, and Single. And remember, what you have on the inside of you is far greater than your circumstances, weaknesses, and fears. So you already have everything you need to live life successfully.